Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you stopping by to learn a little bit today. We're super blessed today to have my pal John Hopkins from the Zac Brown Band, Grammy Award winner. We've been friends for a really long time, and I'm super happy that he's here because I know his personal story, and I want him to talk a little bit about his personal story because I believe that success leaves clues in every avenue. And John is somebody that showed a lot of persistence in achieving his dreams, and we're super excited to have him. So what's up, Hop? How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Where are you? Where are you right now?
This is my home studio. We just finished it in June and started recording my latest Christmas record here. That was cool. The Joe Granston Big Band. So we jumped in with both feet and did a 17-piece band in here. And we're in the control room. So back here is some outboard, and you can't see the console in front of you here. But this is a very comfortable space to do the work that I like to do at home.
Well, that's awesome. You know, man, we talk a lot about being persistent and chasing your dreams in any aspect it is, and I think that you, to me, are kind of the epitome of that because I've known you since 1990, probably what, 2 or 3. It's been a long time, and I've seen all that stuff. So I like this. I want to talk a little bit about your history, first of all. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a firm believer that the type of dedication and resilience that you have is either because as a kid, you either had great examples of that or you were lacking in something that you just trained yourself to be resilient to get it. Which do you think it was for you?
I certainly think it was the former. My dad's a very hard worker, and my mother's a very hard worker, and I was an Eagle Scout at 14, and just really like kind of someone that pushed maybe too hard sometimes to achieve things, and that's allowed me to do a lot of things that I've wanted to do professionally and personally. Sometimes it gets in the way of relaxing and being excited about certain things because I'm so busy, but the persistence has been one of my main driving forces behind everything that I've been able to do. I never quit, and I never give up on anything that I'm trying to achieve.
When did you decide that like music was going to be it, man? That's what you were going to do.
I guess it was right after graduation at Florida State. I had a theater major, and I was playing music throughout my time there. And when I graduated, I just decided that, you know what, I'm enjoying this a lot, and I'm starting to make some money doing it. And I think I could do this at least on a professional level, if not on a world scale, the way that we're doing it now. But I've always had confidence that I would be able to make a living and be able to provide for a family and survive in the world in music. And that's been since the early 90s.
Now, that's interesting because you say that you started to make some money. Back then, would you have considered yourself at that time, and by back then I'm talking about those early bar days after school when you're playing gigs out, with the amount of money you're making, that time, were you successful in your mind?
No, the stakes change, of course, but at that when all you're doing is covering the rent that you were covering in college, and you're the only person that you're taking care of, and all you need is to pay some light bills with roommates and you get food on the table, then making money just means covering that. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. It just means you can sustain the way that you live already outside of a college environment with perhaps parental support or scholarships kind of paving your way. And that's all that meant to me at the time. And as I got older and continued to work in music, I think it's a lot like other businesses where you start to network and you start to meet people that can help you do things that you're doing better, and you can help them do things that they're doing better. And the cost of that goes up and your payment goes up. And by the time I joined Zac's band, it was 2005, and I had been a studio owner for many years and had probably tripled the money that I was making in college and out in the bar scene. So it was starting to grow on my own. And of course, the Zac Brown Band took it to a whole nother level with our touring and the radio and album sales, which is just icing on the cake. We're super, super excited to have all that. But before that, even making it your life's work to not give up, making it a huge part of your life to just say, I'm a lifer. I'm not going to give up on music. I'm not going to give up on the things that I want to do. You find a way. You find a way to make it happen.
But I know that there were some times in there when doubt started to creep in. I mean, when was the first time you can look back and remember?
Only every day.
You thought, what was that?
Only every day.
Every day.
Only every day. Like, maybe I should, go get a teaching degree. Maybe I should, go work for a big company like Turner or something, because I've got the skill set. I've got this technical skill set and this artistic, creative skill set. But yeah, there are times all the time that you feel like something else might be better. Letting somebody else provide you with an employment might be better than doing it yourself.
So what's the thing that helps you overcome that and keeps you in it?
Well, making my own rules is a big thing for me. I'm really stubborn, and I want to be able to do things on my own terms. And obviously, that's a little different now because the Zac Brown Band touring schedule comes first. But when we're off, it's business as usual. Mm-hmm. And I have the opportunity here to make records in my studio and to record my own albums and record for other people. So I get the joy of doing things on my own terms the majority of the time. And to me, that's immeasurable. You can't put a price tag on that.
Well, I know that you've had a bunch of your own bands over the years, Distant Relatives at Florida State, Brighter Shade in Atlanta. And I know you put records out with those guys. And in the early days, I'm curious, what was the benchmark for success for those bands that you said, this is what I want this to do? Did those records achieve that? Did they fall short? Where were you with that?
Well, those records ended up sometimes giving us gas money to get from one spot to another. Sometimes they would pay for a meal or something if we could sell half a dozen records and move on to the next thing. But we weren't into the machine. We weren't into the radio machine or the record label. We didn't have a label. So being an independent, that we didn't see a lot of record sales. In fact, the first record we did, I think we sold 3,500 copies, and that was probably the best one we did. And after that, the first Brighter Shade record, anyway. And after that, it was more maintenance and more staying creative with the group and trying to make new songs and make new relationships. And if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't stayed strong and stayed hungry and stayed a part of the scene, then I wouldn't have been any use to the Zac Brown Band. You know what I'm saying? If I hadn't kept doing that on my own, then when that opportunity came to me to be a part of Zac's band, because we were old friends too, then I wouldn't have been a good choice. I didn't have anything to show for it. So churning all the time, keeping things fresh and new, even if they don't seem like they're going to be a big moneymaker. Sometimes as a creative, just getting new product out there is just as important as having something that puts gas in the tank.
Because that continues to sharpen the blade, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you this, because we have some mutual friends that quit some bands that went on to become very large bands.
Yeah.
Did that ever float around in your head? Like, man, I don't want to be that guy that throws in the towel right before something blows up.
Well, not really, because I didn't really ever consider throwing in the towel with this group. This group these are my friends, and I'm a lifer. Of the guys that I know, and there have been several dozens of guys that I know that have been in big bands that were just about to do something cool and then didn't, or they left before that band did something cool. And if I had gone, if I had decided to go jump on with a different band right before ZBB hit, that would have just been a mistake, I guess. But I didn't have that in me because I was enjoying so much what I was doing. And still to this day, still really enjoy what we're doing musically and as a group of guys hanging out together. We get frustrated together, we celebrate together, and it's and the good and the bad is kind of the same every year. It just we continue down this path of friendship that makes it. I never think about leaving. I never consider it. But back in the struggling times, people came and went in this band too, and I'm sure that some of them are kicking themselves or wish that they were still in it, and I'm still close to everybody that's ever been in this band, even if I don't see them very often.
How did you meet Zach? Just for those of us people that don't know.
I was running an open mic night at CJ's Landing in Buckhead, and that's as you know, a part of Atlanta.
Tuesdays, right? Was it Tuesdays?
Yeah, Tuesday nights, yeah, where all the bars used to be in Buckhead. Now it's kind of like a mini Rodeo Drive. Now it's been demolished and rebuilt, but it used to be a haven for awesome seedy bars with acoustic guitar players, and I was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and so Zach came to that open mic, and we met. It's probably 1998, and we started recording together in my studio in 2000, and have been friends ever since.
When did you know that, man, this might be something special? This is different than anything I've done before that really might get some legs to it.
Well, I had always gone to see Zach's incarnations of his bands play over the years, and I've always thought they were always really good. He had a bunch of great players throughout the years. And I think what it was when I got on the stage with him, and we had Marcus was singing and Jimmy was singing, and we had these four guys that were all doing this 4-part harmony, and I felt like I kind of added an anchor to it with my low end harmony, and we just kind of looked at each other and thought, this is a little different than the last incarnations. We've got this Eagles thing kind of on top of whatever Zach was already doing. And it really felt like we connected on a different level. And in a couple of years, we kind of knew that we had hit something that was going to be appealing to a lot of people. And I think it's mostly in the lyric and the vocals and the voices.
Awesome. Let me ask you this. So you guys formed Zach Brown, and I know Zach is a very driven guy too. What was the original goal? Where did you guys think you were going originally? What was the goal?
You can't plan for all these wonderful things to happen and just expect them to happen. I think the goals just keep changing as we gain momentum. At first the goal was to stay busy and everybody to make money, and we had 6 nights a week where we were doing that in bars and some bigger venues around Atlanta for 2.5, 3 years. Before Chicken Fried hit radio in 2008. And in 2008, that changed everything. We went from 1 bus to 3. We went from, a 2-guy crew to a 10-guy crew, just because the resources started coming in and the venues started to improve and our bookings started to improve. And we took that step. One of the things that I really admire about Zach is that he shoots for the stars. Sometimes we're not always certain that that's going to be the best plan, but we were playing arenas before we were filling them. So we were playing these small kind of like hockey and basketball arenas that would seat 10,000, but we're only bringing 4,000 or 5,000 people. So they're half full, but nobody got turned away in the bigger cities. And we were poised to go open for people like Keith Urban and go open for people like Alan Jackson and Kenny Chesney, because we already had the infrastructure to do that. So it was smart. I'm not even sure if we made the money we needed to make during that time, but we always find a way to make that up. And it was a great career move because it put us on a headliner scale before a lot of bands are prepared to be on a headliner scale.
So you were acting as if.
We were just like, we're ready, hit it. 2008, 2009, it's like, are you really ready? I don't know. We are. Yes, go.
What was the moment, man, that you thought, I made it? That's it. What was that moment?
There's so many wonderful moments where you think this is just incredible. I think getting the Grammy for Best New Artist was probably one of those moments where I just couldn't believe it. There's another moment where we were opening for Kenny Chesney at the Cowboys Stadium, and I look up and I see the Roger Staubach, poster or the banner up there.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of this tremendous. I'm just like, it's like one of my 70s heroes,
The vibrating football set.
Yeah. Like, what am I doing here? There's been moments like that when you see yourself on Letterman or seeing yourself on Saturday Night Live. It's just
that for me and you, man, I got to tell you, when I turned on Saturday Night Live and you were standing next to Chris Cornell singing, I was like, what else in the world is going on?
Yeah.
I think I texted you that you could get Jesus to play tambourine on a set after that.
Yeah. All right. You play with Cornell? Okay. I'm on my way.
Yeah, you know where to go now. That's it,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Let me ask you this, man, because you're so driven and you've worked so hard to get where you are. Are you ever concerned about collateral damage to your life in pursuit of the dream?
Absolutely. And not by anything that I would do to damage my family or my friends, but just by being too busy, by losing focus. It's something I struggle with. I'm always saying yes to too many things, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on. Is I'm trying to say yes to things that I can see down the road are going to be the most important choices, or the ones that make me feel the best. And those can be really, subjective. It's not very obvious sometimes what the best choice is for you personally. You may think, I can go to this gig for a lot of money, or I can do this other gig for a lot of exposure as an actor instead of as a producer. And it's hard to weigh that. And I've struggled with that.
How do you find that balance?
Still, I'll let you know when I find it.
Still working on it.
I think it's a lifetime of discovery. You have to.
Well, I know now, man, opportunities and, like you just said, come at you left and right. What's your process for analyzing if something's right for you?
Well, I have to like the choices. I have to like them right away. So if it's a movie and somebody says it's going to be great and I don't like it, then I just don't do it. But if it's a movie and I like it and I'm trying really hard to be a part of it and I can't, then that's another problem. I don't do those very often, so I'm excited to be a part of them. Music is a little different because I do it all the time, every day, all day long. So lots of times I just don't have the space or the time to do it. And then other times I decide whether I really like something or not before I even consider it. But that just has to be about being happy on the inside and not necessarily making all these choices for monetary gain. It's kind of a tough spot to be in as a creative, because you have these choices to make with your heart versus your head, and
right.
And so it's not always an easy choice.
How do you maintain focus on the music when the acting stuff? Because I know it's a passion. So how do you manage that? How do you keep the day job and chase the next dream?
Two of the movies that I've been in, one's out and one's not out, have my music in them. So I'm excited to be able to share with the movie folks what the music folks are doing, and so it becomes this community that just makes everything stronger. So in those circumstances, it's been a symbiotic sort of relationship between those two worlds. The choices have to be right. I might have missed your question there. I might have gotten sidetracked.
That's okay, man. This is a good segue, because I want to talk about adaptability, because obviously you have that in spades as well. Not only are you resilient, but you have a lot of flexibility in what you do because you have to. So how do you handle being in such tight quarters with so many personalities so much?
That's being in Boy Scouts. That's going to summer camp. That's all the things that I grew up doing. I'm the oldest of 4 brothers. So, I've had a big family my whole life, and we've always had to find common ground. It's like I've told people in years past, who have been in dozens and dozens of bands, and they're like, well, I can't find the band that fits me. And I said, well, you've been in 17 bands. I've been in 2. I kind of find the people that I want to be with, and then we stick together. We find a way to make it work. And at this point, it's been more than 2. But the point is that you don't just go jumping from one relationship to another because it doesn't work immediately. You have to fight for it. And that's the way my wife and I stay together now and stay happy now when I'm traveling so much, because we have to fight for it. My kids are too important. Too important. My life here is all that matters, and I'm just blessed to be able to do what I do on the scale that I do and have such supporting family behind it.
Yep.
But on the road, there are quirks. Everybody's got there'll be somebody with a jacket in the closet that takes two, three. They got 5 or 6 jackets, and they're like, "Where do I put my jacket?" Like you got to start yelling at people, But we do it in fun. We're really good at being able to cut up with each other and make it lighthearted, even if we do have something that needs to come to light about a conflict or an issue. We've just this is 13 years, for me in February. So we've been doing this for a long time together, and we just have gotten over it.
The band's changed a lot over the years. What change affected you personally the most?
Since 2007, it has only grown. I guess, the one that affected me the most was probably when Matt started playing bass, and Matt, by the way, is one of the finest musicians I've ever known in my entire life. And there's no question that he is a far superior player to me on the bass guitar. I didn't know what to do then,
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Zach about it, and he said, "Hey, this is your band. We're just gonna find other things for you to do because Matt has been around for a long time. Matt, I've known Matt as long as I've known Zach almost, and so it made total sense for him to be in the band. But it was one of the weirdest parts for me because I had to change out a lot of my gear. I'd kind of gotten settled after 8 years of doing one thing, and then I had to start doing other things. And after a couple months, certainly by the time the first year had gone by, I was more excited about the new things that I was doing than worried about the old.
Right.
That was the biggest transition that I've had to come to grips with. But I did 3 albums on bass before he joined, and so obviously I could have been taken off of it a lot earlier, but it just made.
What it sounds like the way you dealt with it was to get more excited about what's next than more worried about what's not.
Important. If I couldn't dwell on thinking that I was losing something, I had to think about the things that I was gaining, and it's exciting too because at first I was kind of worried. I was like, what am I going to do now? And as it turns out, I've just become more of a ham, which is kind of what I was to begin with. So now I'm taking the lead vocal on covers like Inner Sandman and Panama, things that I used to do back in the day at Meddlesome Monday, in Dark Horse. Just fun stuff that we do as encores, things to entertain our crowd and break the country vibe up a little bit with some rock. But so I'm kind of built for that stuff. That stuff I did back at the Go Lounge, and it was it feels real comfortable for me to do all that.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the Go Lounge was my bar in Atlanta, and I was blessed enough to have Mr. Hopkins' services.
Best bar ever.
Best what?
Ever.
Yeah, it was. Best PA ever, because we hung it it's like hanging the pyramids when we put that thing up, which is funny. How do you – Tony Robbins talks about putting yourself in optimal state before you do something. So what do you do to get yourself going right before you go on stage?
We have a kind of a ritual. Mm-hmm. Every night before the show, about an hour before the show, we all collect on either in the dressing room or on our bus or Zach's bus, and we sit together and we play through songs that either we're learning or that we've played through for years or that we just like. It's just something that strikes us in the mood. And we call that vocal warm-ups, and it is just that. With often if there's going to be a guest on stage, that person will be there with us to kind of give a 20-minute run through of whatever they're going to do. And it's the one time during the day, or the first time during the day, where we all sit and look each other in the eye before we go on stage, because we get up between 8 and 10 in the morning every day, and people just start doing their things. I've been working on my Christmas record since June on this tour. Jimmy has a workout regimen that he stays really connected to. Clay's been doing some extra mixing, so we start to spread out, and we'll pass each other at dinner or lunch or whatever. But it's that 6:30, 6:45, convening where we really sit and look at each other and kind of talk through things and visit. That really aligns us. It gives us a chance to warm our throats up without just me, like kind of doing this choir thing.
Right.
And we just sit through and play an Amos Lee song and enjoy each other's company for a minute before we go on stage. And it really connects us, I think.
Now,
We play
for example, in what we do and what I do in sales, it can be so monotonous. So how do you go on stage and do something for the 250th time and make it look like it's the first time? Because I think that's something I know you're gifted with.
It does get monotonous, and you know, Zach lays it all out there every night, and on nights where he feels like he doesn't have 100% of himself to give, we will bring it up, you know. And on nights when we don't feel like that, you know, we just there's an energy there. And if somebody is sprained an ankle, or if somebody's throat is hurt, or you know, somebody's got carpal tunnel, or you know, things get adjusted. We play injured, you know, like but that's part of showbiz, is not letting on that that's the case. I remember at one point I was just burnt out, and I had most of the people in the crowd I can consider, you know, very close acquaintances, if not, you know, friends. And I have them saying, you know, reacting to me like, you know, cheer up or something, and I'll just be like, go away, you know, I don't want to talk to you right now. And can't you see I'm playing? You're like, have those moments where you're human, right? So you just have to make the best of it, and after a song, try to refocus your brain and get back in it. You've got 2.5 hours up there to make it better. Yeah. So if something starts off strong and then you have a dip, you have a long time to come back up. If it starts off, you know, kind of low, then you've got plenty of time to build up. You know, it's just, you have to gauge the energy. Every crowd is different, and you learn how to react to who's reacting to you.
Well, I think that's interesting, because I never really looked at a band as a team. So I guess in that aspect, it's much easier to be part of a team.
This one is
to be flying by yourself.
This one is, we could wear shoulder pads. We're a team. I mean, like, yeah, we could wear a uniform. This is a group that really pays attention to each other. And not all bands are like that. I think a lot of bands are kind of, everybody's out doing their own thing in the midst of a song or a moment. But we are an ensemble, and that's what's kept us together for this long.
Well, cool. Well, let's switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about mentors and mentorship.
Sure.
You were coming up. Did you have a mentor?
I had several. You know, I think one of my first musical mentors was Jimmy Cutrell, who is no longer with us. He was my choir director at First Baptist Church, and he taught us about harmony. He taught us about projection and delivery. He taught us about tone, and he taught us how to work together. We came under a lot of duress in different scenarios. At one point, we were on a mission trip together, and it seemed like everything was going wrong, and we're kind of stuck in this rundown shack in New Orleans trying to help kids and perform these concerts for churches around the area. And we just all had to really kind of get together, and he was the leader in that. And that was a big lesson for me, how he was able to draw everybody in and keep everybody connected. You know, another mentor of mine is Pam Ware, who was my high school drama director. And she taught me all about ensemble and all about focus, and trying not to draw too much focus from the group to yourself, and unless it's your moment, you know. And that can be said for any group, any ensemble, any team. You have to learn how to balance everything. So those two people, both in entertainment, you know, were huge influences on how I became a performer and how I look at performing and interacting with people. There's too many to mention. I just have a wonderful support system. Both my parents are fabulous mentors for me. They both always try to steer me into the right direction and treat people with respect, and to stick to right versus wrong, and to never cheat, steal, or lie from anyone. And that's been a tremendous lesson throughout my entire life. So I can point to dozens of people that I would consider mentors.
Well, let me ask you this. On the early Zac Brown records, there was a lot of duets with really established artists.
Yeah.
Jackson, those guys. How much do you think leveraging their established success helped propel you guys?
Well, in a lot of scenarios, these were guys that were really excited about being on big stages, and they were also guys that we looked up to so very much. And James Taylor is a complete iconic member of the music community, but he doesn't get on TV that often. So he was going to, I'll be in front of, umpteen million people on the ACMs of you guys. Great. That sounds great. And we got a chance to meld in this guy who literally taught me how to, not personally, but his album literally taught me how to finger pick on a guitar, and I'm looking at him just going, how is this even possible? And as it turns out, he's pretty excited to be playing with us too, because we've gotten a chance to hang. We didn't just get thrown in there together. We had 2 hours to sit around and get to know each other a little bit. And he's salt of the earth. He's just so easy and nice to talk to. And that's just one example. Most of these guys that we've had the honor of sharing the stage with, it's been a kind of a give and take like relationship. Like they've excited to be with us, and we're excited to be with them. And it feels to us like we're getting all the benefit out of it.
Right.
But then again, we're the ones that had the slot on the country music show or whatever it was, and they're excited to be a part of that with a big audience. So even somebody as iconic as Dave Grohl, who's just I mean, you and I would sit and have a drink with this guy, and you'd be like, I've known you my whole life, and he was like, yeah, man, let's go do CMAs. Come on, let's go. And he just jumps up and runs, and we're just like, okay, you're on the country show with us, right?
Like it's a drummer from Nevada. Right?
He turns into one of the nicest guys you ever met, and he's your friend forever. And it's just like, wow, everybody's super cool. So I mean, I think there's probably, from the outside, it might appear that some people are getting more than the other person is getting from that. But if you'd have been in that audience at Bridgestone when he started like checking his drums, the scrim is down, and it's like, wonder who's next, and it's these huge like double 18 subs behind him, and it's just he brought his rig in, and I'm sure that everybody in the country music community was like, what?
Who's that?
Next, somebody brought Animal out from the Muppet Show, and then the curtain came up, and they're like, oh, Dave Grohl, of course.
Yeah. With that kind of collaboration and working with mentors and stuff like that, what's the was there ever a time where you're like, hey, we should do this, and you were like, man, they're never going to say yes, and then they said yes, and it was amazing.
With shows?
No, just with doing stuff with established artists that were in a mentor role to you guys, and somebody said, hey, we should try to sit with this guy, and they're like, man, they're never going to play with us, and then it worked out.
We've been excited to play with people that we weren't sure would say yes, and not everybody has said yes. I mean, obviously, some people are busy, some people have got other things or other goals, and it may not be on their radar to be involved in some sort of country festival. But we've always had fantastic people a part of our show. At one point, this is not exactly what you're asking, but this is a funny story. Okay. We were doing I can't remember which Allman Brothers song it was, but we were doing it our way. We'd done it that way in the bars for years, and we started to explain it to Greg Allman, well, this is how we like to end it. We're going to take it down to the bridge and double the something. He goes, yeah, that's cool. Let's just do it my way.
Okay.
Do it your way. Like we're trying to lead him down this path. And he's like, nah.
Yeah, that's all well and great, but we're going to do it like I do.
He's good enough to come play with us, but he wanted to go ahead and do it his way.
Yeah, we're going to do it his way. Now you've shifted, man. You guys have gone from that coming up band that's, comes out hot with all the number ones, and now you're the established band. So I'm sure now you're mentoring people coming up through the business.
I suppose, once in a while I hear that, and there was a young man at one of our meet and greets recently that said, I've been listening to you since I was 9 years old. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes you 19. It's not that huge of a thing, but it's fun to know that you've been a part of somebody's CD collection for most of their listening life in some circumstances, and in others, it's nice to get new fans. I mean, we like the thought of kind of helping people and guiding them if they need that, and we certainly like the fact that we're still learning from all the people that come out on the road with us. I mean, Daryl Scott just came out on the road with us for the whole tour,
Yeah.
And we did nothing but drool on the stage every time he played anything. You know, it was just like, yeah, this guy's killing it. You know, just every time, you know, you never stop learning, especially when you surround yourself with people of that caliber, you know, and that's what we try to do. One of the things my dad always said is you know, always try to work with people who are better than you.
Because, is that the best piece of advice you ever got?
Well, it's one of them. It's one of them that I always remember, you know, and it's very true because, you know, your perception of who's better than you is somebody that you're going to learn from. You know, if you had judges out and you said, is that guy better than you or is this guy you? I don't know what they would say. But if you see that that person's better at doing what I want to do, and you go for that guy and go for that girl, and you say, I want you to teach me what you're doing, you're going to learn something. You're going to get better at what it is that you actually do, whether it's being judged or not.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the best piece of advice you think you've given somebody in your industry? You said, man, I told this guy this, and you thought, man, that was great.
You know, we're back to our theme. It's don't ever quit. Persistence.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't say, especially in my industry, you can't say, I want to be a musician. I want to go out there and do this thing for the rest of my life and be a player and be a part of a community and be on a national level and then just not do it. You have to stay with it. And to that end, lots of people find a way to have another, you know, source of income and do this. But if you do focus on this and can make a living, then it's the only way to go, because you have to really stick with it. You can't get diverted, and that's just it. You can't get discouraged, and you can't quit.
Right.
That's the best advice I've ever given anybody is don't quit.
They're like, do teenage boy bands kind of irritate you? You're like, oh, all the struggles of being 14, and now you're a Disney star. You're like, you don't know what struggle is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they used to, but those guys, you know, they have a whole nother thing that I have no idea. You know, at 14, I would never have been cast in one of those things. I didn't have that sort of shine. You know, I was getting roles in my school plays and I was singing all the time. And I guess I had the skill set that they did. If somebody had said, we're going to teach you this dance and these songs and this is your part. But they have a different thing. They're almost like actors in some ways. And a lot of them become Justin Timberlake. Well, some of them become Justin Timberlake. Not many, I guess. But I mean, he from the beginning, he was the star or the shining light in that, in all of those bands, and still to this day, that you're not gonna have a whole slew of those guys that are stars. And you know, I look at myself, and I'm very excited to be in this band, and very excited to be a part of it. But I'm one of thousands of guitar playing, lead singing / backup vocalist. Guys in bands that aren't the lead guy. So I'm very comfortable with where I am, and I have a life in music that I'm very pleased with and excited about, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. I don't know if there's any sense. I guess if I were younger, yeah, I'd say, what do you know, you 14-year-old kid with the, you know, got thrown on stage with your pretty hair or whatever. But you know, at this point.
Let me ask you this.
From that, because it's totally not what I do, and I don't know what they're going through or how they're dealing with it. So,
let's flip flop your career arc, because I always tell people, you know, in my industry, in real estate, 90% of people fail in the first year. It's ridiculous, but I think that struggle, the people that make it through that struggle, is what allows you to have a longevity in this particular career space. So let's say we flip-flop your career arc to where you got very famous, very young, and then teetered off into your early, mid-30s without aging you. And what do you think that looks like? Do you think you're better in the long term to deal with success because you had it later in life and you had this trouble?
That if we had done this any younger, if we had been teenagers when we made it big or whatever, that we very, very easily may not be here right now. You know, like it's very difficult to be that successful and thrown into that big of a crazy kind of rock and roll life at a very young age. I mean, we sort of made those lives for ourselves on smaller scales in bars and around, Atlanta and Tallahassee and back in the day. But we always went home to our apartments and revamped our thought processes if we're out partying or something. But if you have that much freedom and that much influence before you really know what you're doing, it can be very dangerous. And we've seen a lot of people lose their lives in that process. And we were lucky. I was in my early 30s when I joined Zach's band, and he was in his mid to late 20s. We're 7 years apart, and I'm 46 now. And if I had done 33, I was kind of at the back end of that, I think, of being able to get out and have the energy and the go get them to go do something like being a big touring rock band. Having not done it, and so I kind of got in it before it was too late, And Zach was younger. He looked to a lot of us and some of the older guys for advice in the first several years about how to make things happen. And I was the one wiring the board and wiring the racks and putting together our in-ear rigs, and Jimmy was the one navigating the trips and taking care of how we were getting, down the routing of the touring. And he was doing some accounting with the tour. And we were taking care of all these things ourselves. And we had experience with that. He basically, we were 4 or 5 different band leaders working on this one band together. And that's kind of what helped us continue, is we all had our own established entities that came together. More of a partnership in the beginning than just come play with me. We really jumped in there and threw everything that we had into it as leaders, and that really has made a big difference.
That's awesome. Well, let's, speaking of your own entity, let's talk about this Christmas record, man. Let's help you sell some of these things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I've just now put it up onto TuneCore to get some digital distribution, and we're finalizing the art today. The album's called You Better Watch Out. It's all Santa songs, and it's being performed by me, and all the music is being performed by the Joe Granston Big Band. And
very cool. So last year was the Atlanta Philharmonic, correct?
No, Atlanta Pops.
Atlanta Pops.
Yeah, that was 2015, and then last year we did a deluxe version on vinyl of that same record with some extra bonus tracks. This year we're doing the Joe Granston Big Band, so it's more swing music, more Sinatra, and then a little Dixieland and some samba. It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
It's got the harmony thing. It's got some fantastic featured artists on it. Bela Fleck plays banjo on it. Aoife O'Donovan sings Santa Baby on it. We've got Danny Reyes on percussion from Zac Brown Band. We've got Clay Cook on guitar from Zac Brown Band. And, of course, Joe Granston leads his band, and he's a feature as well. So we've got some really great featured tracks and a lot of fun stuff. My kids are singing on one or, shouting out on Rudolph. A lot of these videos are going to be starting to get dropped today, tomorrow, next day, every day until Christmas.
Awesome. Well, for people that hate Christmas music and want to see that other little project you're in, the Zac Brown Band, where can they catch you guys coming out?
I think our next thing is going to be in your backyard. So we're looking at the 29th out in Vegas, but we don't have anything until then. We're off. We're officially done with the tour, but we'll have some fundraisers for Camp Southern Ground that we're excited about, and we'll also have some things that will pop up locally. But there's nothing like being home right now, especially watching the leaves change out here in Georgia and watching the
girls.
Watching my girls go out and play in the yard and being a part of their soccer games and all that is just and one of the greatest joys of my life, and that's what we're enjoying right now.
Well, cool. Well, man, I appreciate the time so much. I know you're busy. I think everybody got a lot out of this. It's a really interesting perspective on persistence and success. So
it's my pleasure, and I'm very blessed to be a part of such a successful group, and we will be doing this until we drop. I feel so.
Awesome. Okay, man. Well, I'll see you in December if I don't talk to you before.
All right, brother.
All right, buddy. Take care. See ya.